Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we are setting up the rest of my March weeklies. I have to say I didn't realize until I started doing this theme that these are apparently the colors that make me really happy. Obviously, as I'm filming this voiceover, I'm already finished with these layouts and they are some of my favorites. They are really some of my favorites. I feel like they're going to help me be really productive. Maybe that's silly to say. I don't know. I feel like when my bullet journal is prettier, then I am more likely to want to sit down and look at it. Anyway, so here we go. I messed up there and used the wrong color green. I do that a couple times in the video because I was too lazy to put the marker away. So, so I used the wrong one a few times, but it's all good. This layout is a new one to me. It is sort of a horizontal layout, but I shrunk it a little bit. So I have rooms. I realize I am most productive when I have a small task list for each day, and then I have room for bigger sort of non-task related lists on the sides, like shopping lists or just things to keep in mind for the future that I don't necessarily have to do this week, but I don't want to forget about in the weeks to come. So I tried this one. I think it's going to work really well for me. And of course, I had to put a woman's quote down there in the right because the 8th is International Women's Day. I don't know, is that a new thing this year? Because I swear I don't remember hearing about it until this year. Please don't come at me, ladies. I don't know. I just found out about it this year. I was looking for, things to put in my planner, and I saw Women's Day and Women's Month, and I was like, heck yeah, let's go. I'm all about this. I can make this into a theme. I made it into a theme in my classroom too. So yeah, I'm having a lot of fun with it. These little rainbows, they look so simple when you're looking at them. It's like, oh, I'm just going to draw some pretty little rainbow lines and some dots occasionally, and it's going to look so relaxed and pretty. And don't get me wrong, they look beautiful, but they are a lot trickier to draw, at least for me, than I would have ever imagined. I found it's best to, obviously when you're repeating rainbows, now that's the only rainbow in this spread, but when you're repeating rainbows, it's best to add some of those little details like the triangles that I did and the dashes. It really spices them up, as spicy as rainbows can be. I'm bringing back out that Kraft paper B5. There was a minute when I thought that I would just do like that would be my next bullet journal and I could just do spreads and Kraft paper, but I really just don't think that's something I can commit to forever, So I am finding as many ways as possible to incorporate it, and if nothing else, it can be a swatch journal or a doodle journal or like an actual journal. So I'm still really happy I got it in one of my mystery boxes. I feel like the Kraft paper looks really good with these tones too. And you could totally write on it with a black pen, but I like to write on these with the Milkies. So I'm adding some lines to make these lists. Obviously, I don't have to because that is dot grid paper, but I just feel like it looks more put together that way. And I'm also way more likely to write on them if there are lines. I know maybe it sounds crazy to you, but that's how my mind works. I'm still adding clovers because I put them in the calendar and in the cover page, so I've got to keep that theme going for March. I put a piece of paper down here to keep from writing on any of the next pages or on the edges of the pages, because you can definitely see that when your bullet journal is closed. And if you watched my monthly setup, my major suggestion for using markers like this, because obviously you can see the marker strokes, is to try to mimic the shape that you're coloring in. So I'm trying to keep these circular. I feel like if I'm going to see the strokes, they might as well look pretty, and they look a lot prettier if they are mirroring the shape that you are filling in. I picked this quote from Ruth Bader Ginsburg: "Women belong in all places. Decisions are being made." She's badass. So I had to find an RBG quote. Now, the trick when you're writing a quote like this, it's obviously most people mix up the lettering like I am. You want to emphasize some words occasionally. So, capital, lowercase, cursive, regular. But I also mix up the nib sizes. So I'm using the pen for part of it, and then I'm using the paint marker for another part of it. I'm really impressed at how well I colored in those circles, by the way. I know I had already drawn circles and pencils, but I'm still impressed that I was able to color in a circle without messing it up too badly. I was not happy with the way that these flowers turned out with that really thick paint marker. I was mad at myself. I wish I would have gone in with the pen first so I could get those fine details. I also was not a huge fan of how I wrote the word women, so I brought in some craft paper instead to save the day. That looks much better. I went with a different flower altogether because it's easier to write on these kinds of paper with the paint marker. The paint markers are just bomb. Simple but pretty. I had to make sure the paint was dry there. On to the next one. This one was a little more time consuming. Looks really good, but it was time consuming. So I went with a full-on horizontal layout this time. I did not shrink anything. And I'm going to put a rainbow in every day, and that'll be where I put like the number and the day of the week. And I like on these rainbows, I went with some thinner markers, like a thinner micron, so that the details look a little more delicate. For some reason, I just feel like that looks better than the bolder black. I also like to mix up the thickness of the lines. It's just harder sometimes to make a thin line at an arch. As you can tell, it slants. It's okay. I will say I used the heck out of my white jelly roll in this layout. I cut out parts of it because I didn't feel like you needed to see me fix 500 rainbows, but I did. If I went over a line, I fixed it with the white jelly roll. If I made the shape just totally weird and out there, I'm sorry, my dog is having a hissy fit scratching her ear. But if I went totally wrong with the arch, I used that white jelly roll. They really saved this spread. That is probably one of my most used accessories in my bullet journal. I incorporated the waves at the top too. I did that in my monthly setup, so I thought I would pull it into my weekly. There's just something about that coral color. Man, it's pretty. And after I filmed this, I got the new Papermate pens, Papermate Inkjoy. I'm not a big fan of the way these ones write. I don't know what happened. I don't know if I got a bum batch or whatnot, but they skip a little bit. However, there is a coral color exactly like that, and you better believe that that is what I'm filling in every single one of these spreads with. I already filled out my calendar with it, like my monthly overview calendar, and it looks so good. It was just perfect. Now, what I had meant to do, since St. Patrick's Day will actually be on that bottom left rainbow that day, I had meant to just do different shades of green for that rainbow to make it stand out. So it would have still been a rainbow, would have still gone with the theme, but it would have been green for St. Patty's Day, and I was in the zone. I was drawing me some rainbows, and I totally forgot to do that. It would look fine either way. Obviously, I like that rainbow, but I wish I would have remembered to make that one green for St. Patrick's Day. I also left myself a section for notes, which means that I combine the last 2 days of the week as just the weekend. I do that sometimes. I don't always have a lot going on the weekend. You know, it's like 2020 part 2, so there's not much you can do. So I don't necessarily need a lot of room there. But I do, like I said in the last spread, like to have lists for other things. And my goal here was obviously to draw the green circles and then put the numbers of the days on top. I did not like that I didn't line Monday up with Tuesday and Wednesday, so I'm going to go in and fix that. And then it's just really hard to fit 2 in that little weekend circle. So I end up just taking it away completely off camera. But I do fix Monday and it lines up and it looks better. They make thinner jelly rolls. I actually have the 5 and I think it's a 7, but they're not as opaque as I would like. All right, on to the last spread. This one is my favorite. I love the way this one turns out. I love those boxes. I love everything about this one. So I'm starting with a simple rainbow up here. I think this is my favorite detail of the rainbow. So I'm using that thin micron again. I think it's the one. I'm pretty sure it's the one. And I'm alternating lines and triangles. And there's just something that looks so pretty about that. This is my favorite rainbow of the whole month. And then I stamped the calendar on top. I was worried I wouldn't be able to see it over some of the markers, but it turned out all right and it looks really good. Again, I am trying to mirror the shape of the circle and the little splotch so that it just looks a little cleaner, as clean as it can with all these strokes. I'm using I think it's the 7 POSCA. It's the thinner nib. I'm pretty sure that's the 7. The one thing that bothers me is that when I sketch this out, I get so, the delicate little details turn out so pretty. And then when I go in with these thick old markers, it just doesn't end up looking the same. It's still pretty, but not as pretty as when I had sketched it. Sorry about the sunlight there. It was a really cloudy day, so there were shadows, there were sun rays, and then there was just darkness. I messed up these lines a little bit, obviously, but my jelly roll will save the day again. I just thought there was something about this spread that the clean lines just wouldn't have looked, it would have been too structured for all of the shapes and the kind of more relaxed feel this spread has, if that makes sense. So I drew them by hand, and I'm not mad about how they turned out. And I also gave myself another notes list with a Kraft paper. Obviously, I messed up with one of the lines. The great thing about those jelly rolls is that they scrape off of paper so easily. I just took my little X-Acto knife and just barely scraped down, and I'll fix that line in a minute. I needed a motivational quote. I needed it more so on the day that I was filming this. I hope the week that I end up filling this in, I don't need it as much as I did at that particular moment. But I found that quote and it spoke to me, and I said, hey, I'm going to encourage my future self here. You got to nourish to flourish. I've been feeling pretty drained lately. Teaching in COVID is hard. So I needed this little quote to kind of push me through. I have to remind myself that I got to take care of myself before I can take care of anybody else. I messed up some of the letters too, but I'll fix them with the jelly roll also. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please give this a thumbs up if you liked it, and subscribe if you are not already. Time for the final flip through. Bye, friends.